What are your thoughts on the evolution of Michael Myers throughout the franchise? And where could we possibly see him go beyond Halloween ends? That's the question. Let's talk about it. Rise. What's going on, guys? We're going to be talking about the evolution of one of the greatest horror icons of all time. Of course, I'm talking about Michael Audrey Myers, a character that has spanned almost 50 years, and there's been different angles to this character throughout the franchise, throughout the 13 movies that we currently have. My question for you is, have you noticed the evolution that has taken place with Michael Myers? What are some of your favorite aspects of this evolution? Are there certain ways that he was portrayed that you like better than others? Are there certain ways that he was portrayed that you think fit him better than others? What are the ones that you don't like? Those are the questions that I want to ask, but I also want to think about where could he go from here? Now, with the thought of possibly getting something on the smaller screen and eventually back onto the bigger screen. That's what I want to know, guys. That's what we're going to talk about. But real quick, if you haven't hit that like button already, please do. It helps to support the channel, and I'd appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the NIGHTWATCH Zone, this is the time to do it. Let's get down to brass tacks. So, with Michael Myers, as a young child, when I first watched the Halloween films, starting with Halloween 2, and then of course I went back to 78, the thing that really struck me, if we go back to Halloween 1978, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to craft this story that was based on these characters, the babysitters, okay, with Laurie Strode, with Annie, with Linda, the little boy, Tommy Doyle, okay, and his fascination with evil, with the boogeyman, and how that affected his life. And of course, just to say real quick, it's very interesting to see how that played out in the current Halloween trilogy by David Gordon Green, but that's neither here nor there. But thinking about Michael Myers in Halloween, there was a sense of simplicity to Michael. He was the shape of a man. He wasn't even called Michael Myers, right? And that was intentionally done by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. Now, I think, and this is just me talking about my thoughts on the franchise, being a huge fan of it for so many years since I was a little kid, 7 years old. My thought on it is they wanted him to be something simple. John Carpenter had said many times before he was something that was almost like nature, like an element. He was just there, the shape of a man. He was nameless, he was faceless, which of course fit with the mask. Of course, there was some luck in that, trying to find the right mask. They went with different ideas for the mask, clown mask, all these different types of things. But anyways, it all worked out. It was lightning in a bottle. And Michael Myers was so interesting to everyone because we could paint that picture for ourselves. We could project our fears onto that iconic mask. We could project our concerns and all those things on this person who is a man, who seems like he is more than. And that's what John Carpenter wanted for Michael. We see that in Nick Castle's performance as he stalks Laurie Strode, as he's stalking them, the kids, Tommy at the school, and all these things that are happening that just seem a little odd, right? I mean, that is what he is represented as in Halloween. Now, with Halloween 2, and I'm just going to touch upon some of the big moments. There'll probably be more deep dives that I'll do for specific films, but in Halloween 2, he's presented as someone that is more on a mission, right? Like when you watch Halloween, you're wondering, well, what is he doing? He's kind of here, he's kind of there, he's watching Laurie, he's driving a car, he's skidding down the road, all that type of stuff. You're trying to figure out what is his game plan, and you don't really get a sense of that until the third act. If that at all. You're still wondering, what the hell's going on. Loomis provides a lot of that insight, right? That's what Loomis is supposed to do, is to give us that information to fill us in on history so that we know what is going on. Okay. But in Halloween 2, the thing about Halloween 2 is right off the bat, it continues right after the events of Halloween, and he's on the run in a sense. He's definitely trying to get away from where he fell off the balcony, but he's he's on a mission. He's automatically on a mission. As soon as he finds out where Laurie is, boom, he's heading to the hospital. So there is a sense, what I'm trying to say is there's more of a sense of urgency with the way that Michael is portrayed in Halloween 2. There's obviously more intensity. Now, one could look at this multiple ways. We know the reason for it is because the movie itself was inspired and pushed more so because of the new wave of slashers, most notably Friday the 13th, which I've always found very interesting because Friday the 13th was inspired by Halloween, right? Sean Cunningham said to Victor Miller, let's rip off Halloween. Okay, so Friday the 13th comes out. And to be fair, and you guys know I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th franchise, that's my franchise, but to be fair, they did do things that were different than Halloween. They leaned more into the gore, into the kills. You have Tom Savini on board, so that changes up the formula quite a bit, right? They do what they do with Friday the 13th, and then all of a sudden, boom, the dam is open.
You're goddamn right.
You have all these slashers that come out that are trying to emulate a lot of what Friday did, okay? So when Halloween 2 came out, they had to adjust accordingly as well. They had to have more intensity in the kills.
Who is it?
They had to show more violence in the kills. Most notably, that scene where Michael kills the young lady who's in the house, is right down the street from the murders. In that scene, that was, upping the ante, upping the violence of Michael Myers. So there's that aspect to it, right? But as far as the story is concerned, you can also get a sense of, okay, he's more intense. He's on the mission because he has to finish the job. Now, we find out in Halloween 2 that Laurie and him are brother and sister. So that also adds that new element. Now, some people are big on the brother-sister angle and some people don't like it. I've always been fine with it. I do think it pinned them into a corner, so to speak. And it's like, once you see the events of Halloween 4, 5, and 6, they're pinned more and more and more into a corner because now the only reason or the main reason that he's doing what he's doing is to kill his family, right? And we see that in 4 when it's Jamie, this young girl played by Danielle Harris. And what was interesting is when we see the events of 4, now that we don't have Laurie Strode in the mix, I think what they found was, okay, how can we make this story captivating for the audience, right? So we're not going to necessarily have Michael go after another young lady. Let's have him go after a young girl, or a kid, and I don't think it really mattered if it was a boy or girl, but they decide, okay, let's have him go after his niece. So it's a different dynamic. So I think at this point in Halloween 4, they thought to themselves, okay, we got to find a new angle. And by the way, obviously Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, fantastic movie, finally getting some of the love it deserves in the last decade or so, but obviously Michael's not in it. So, but with Halloween 4, so you have this new path that they're on without Jamie Lee Curtis. And in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, but there have been interviews and things and articles and so forth that have definitely talked about this, and it makes sense. A lot of it is very logical, but because of the fact that we don't have Jamie Lee Curtis any longer, and now we have this young child, okay, so now Michael, he's more intense. But you got to remember, Halloween 4 came out in 1988, okay? So at that point, not only did you have Friday the 13th reaching its peak and huge success and popularity, but you also had A Nightmare on Elm Street that came out in 1984. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 came out in 1985. Dream Warriors came out in 87. And even The Dream Master came out in 88. So by the time that Halloween 4 came out, it was already behind the eight ball as far as slashers were concerned, so to speak, right? So again, Michael had to become even more um, intense. He had to stand out even more, bring more to the table, so to speak. And I think that's why you started to see in Halloween 4 that he became even more, quote unquote, otherworldly.
What are you, deaf? Don't try that Halloween shit with me.
Almost supernatural, the things that he could do, the kill scenes. If you think about the kill scene with Kelly Meeker and he's taking that shotgun. Look, guys, and I love Halloween 4. I absolutely love Halloween 4. There's no doubt about that. And I think that it has so many great aspects to it. I think the kills are great. I think Kelly's a great character. Obviously, the great Kathleen Kinmont. But let's be real. And yeah, it's an homage to the Bob kill. But, bro, he took a shotgun and he's so powerful that he takes the shotgun and he just blasts it right through Kelly into the wall. And he does it with such a force. It goes through the wall and it keeps her there, right? Beautiful stuff, classic stuff. 1988, guys. That's 1988. And when I was a kid and I saw this movie, this was the movie, for me anyways, and I'm talking about Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This was the movie, for me anyways, that solidified Michael, as an icon. He was back. They brought him back. Thank goodness he's back. And now I have that trinity. I have Jason, Freddy, and Michael. So it was really, really impactful to me as a child. So with Halloween 4, that's where you started to see the supernatural side of Michael big time. He was so hard to kill, right? You could run him over with a truck and he just gets right back up like it was nothing, okay? He survived the events of Halloween 2, where Loomis destroyed the wing of a hospital and killed innocent people, presumably. And all he had were burns, a few burns on his hand. Michael Myers I'm talking about. So this is where they started to really go down that path, that supernatural path, okay? Now, once you start doing that, and Friday the 13th, they can definitely tell you from experience, once you start doing that, there's no turning back. There is no turning back. So at the end of Halloween 4, so the question that I'm sure that Dwight Little and everyone was on their minds, how are we going to stop him? How do we get to the end of this movie, right? At the end of the movie, not only does he get shot 6 times like Loomis did, or 7, depending on how you're going to count, he got shot 600 times, okay? We're talking about Predator level destruction on Michael Audrey Myers. He got shot so many times. Listen, guys, and I love these movies. You know that. I'm a huge Halloween fan, but let's just pull back for a minute. Let's think. How the hell, if you're a man, he's a man, okay? We know that. How does he survive that? Now, at the end of Halloween 4, that's what it is. He gets shot. He goes down into the ditch. There's nothing else. We see Jamie at the end of Halloween 4, the great stinger, one of the greatest endings in the franchise, maybe one of the greatest endings in horror movie history, because I'm telling you what, it got me, man. Even watching it right now, and I've seen Halloween 4 so many times, that ending still gets me. Okay, so that's it, right? Well, guess what, guys? In the following year, we're going to have The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween 5. He survived the Predator shooting, okay? The 600 shots. He survived it. He's got to be nursed to health though, right? He's in a coma, whatever we want to call it. Not a coma, but he's being nursed back to health. He's definitely weakened, okay? Whatever. Gotcha. Okay, so in Halloween 5, you're still on that path, that supernatural path. He's still doing shit that is impossible for a man to do. I mean, he's killing people in way, like I said, it's just crazy stuff. It's absolute crazy stuff. So again, we're going down this road, this evolution of Michael Myers, and it goes right into the Cult of Thorn, Halloween 6, or Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers, and we realize that the only way we can explain as far as this movie is concerned, the only way we can explain these events and how Michael is able to do what Michael does is that it's cult shit. It's cult shit.
Yeah.
He was chosen, he is controlled, he is he's a soldier for the Cult of Thorn. He's an enforcer. He's a heavy. That's what Michael Myers has become. And I enjoy a lot of aspects of the Curse of Michael Myers. You guys know that. But again, we're in the situation where we got pinned into a corner in two ways. There's two ways we got pinned into that corner. One is because it was linked to family, and that started in Halloween 2. And then two is that Michael has become definitely more than a man. We just can't deny that, and that started in Halloween 4. Okay, so at the end of Halloween 6, and of course we know there's the theatrical and then there's the producer's cut. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but I think that there was nowhere else to really go, at least at that time. Okay, at that time, and again, this new Halloween project that's coming, there's a lot of different ways they could go, and I know there's a lot of people that want to see a continuation of the Thorn Michael, or in some way, shape, or form spin off from that. And I get it. There was some fun stuff in it. Michael was doing a lot of crazy ass shit. It was awesome stuff. I grew up around it. So yes, that's very, very interesting. I don't know if they're going to go that way, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm going to tell you why. So at the end of Curse, we're in that corner, bro. We've been creeping towards that corner for multiple movies, and now we are dead in the corner. We are standing in the corner. We got nowhere to go with Michael. So they think to themselves, what can we do? We got to do a 7th movie in this franchise. Well, let's bring back the queen herself. Let's bring back Jamie Lee Curtis. Let's get ready for this 20th anniversary of the franchise. We're going to call it Halloween 20 years later, H2O, and we are going to ignore movies. And, to be quite honest, looking back at it, that might have been the only path available, okay? Now, you guys know, I really enjoy H2O. There are some things about H2O that I don't think work as well now as opposed to then. We know that when it came out, it was right in the middle of the resurgence of slashers that was reignited by Scream and Wes Craven. So there was a lot of inspiration from that, which is fine. And Kevin Williamson on board, which is fine. I have no issue with that. But again, now we're going back into one of those two issues as far as saying, okay, we're back to the brother and sister thing. Now, the payoff for it was the fact that we bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, fantastic actress, and which brings back Laurie Strode, which is an icon in Halloween. It's an iconic character. It is what it is. I know some people, they're fans of only the 78 Laurie. Some people are fans of only the H2O Laurie. Some are fans of only the new trilogy Laurie. Some are fans of it all. Some fans are not. They don't like any version of Laurie, which I think is crazy because, it's an iconic character that was part of the original film. But with H2O, there were great things in it. But again, this is a character that has all. You got to think about this when I talk about the evolution of Michael Myers, and it's also the franchise. This is a character that has always, in my opinion, and I don't mean this in any disrespect whatsoever, because I absolutely love the character, but this has always been a character in a franchise other than the first film, for the most part. This has always been a franchise and a character that has kind of been riding the waves of what's going on in horror movies at the time, and basically trying to mold it to its own end, right? So in H2O, that's what we see, is that it very much plays like a film of that time of 1998. And at the end of the film, it was definitive. The head gets chopped off. That's what Jamie Lee Curtis wanted, and so forth. But Michael can't die. And, rest in peace to Mustafa Akkad, but he can't die. So with Resurrection, they had to figure out how to bring him back. Now, again, you guys know, and I've talked about this numerous times, whether it's in the deep dive specifically on H2 on Resurrection or multiple live streams, but the way that they brought Michael back, okay, they figured out a way to do it. Does it work fully for me? No, but I get it. They had to bring him back, so it was an imposter. The death of Laurie Strode, again, that was part of, Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to get in, get out, just fulfill the contract. I get it. It's good. It's fine. But the way they killed her was really dumb. It was dumbass shit. You got to do better than what they did for Jamie Lee Curtis, for Laurie Strode as a character in Resurrection. But it is what it is. Again, Resurrection is a sign of the times, the whole idea of reality shows, and they tried to mold that into a Halloween movie. I don't think it was super successful in that way. It had moments, definitely had some characters that stand out more than others. When we talk about a riddle wrapped up inside of an enigma and all that.
We are going to enter a mystery wrapped up inside of a riddle, inside of an enigma. Now, remember this.
That's the stupidest fucking thing I ever heard.
Shout out to Freddie Harris. But they were pinned in a corner, man. And this was, you could have seen the chain of events all the way from Halloween 2. And, you look all the way down through the franchise to Resurrection. And because of that, that's why they decided to reboot this shit. Reboot it. Remake it. Whatever you want to call it. Rob Zombie. Bring him in. He's got, a certain visual style. He's a visionary director. He's going to add his own take to it and so forth. So that's how we get the Rob Zombie movies. The first film, some great things in it. Tyler Mane plays Michael more human. Okay, he's not supernatural anymore. So we've taken that out of the equation, which, looking back on it now, okay, and this is years removed from 2007 when Rob Zombie's Halloween came out. Looking back on it now, pretty good idea. Pretty good idea. Because once you get supernatural, it's like, okay, what can't he do? Right? But he started out as a man. He started out as a man, and he was a man in a town. See, it's different with Freddy, because Freddy was already supernatural, okay? And his mythology was created in that way. You look at Jason. When Jason returned in Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 6, and they made that choice to make him a zombie, okay? It worked because of the way that they presented it and the mythology. And plus, from the beginning, Jason was like this legend, this myth, this curse on Crystal Lake. So it worked in Friday the 13th, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Did that work for Friday the 13th when they brought Jason back as far as being a zombie? And now he's not a man, he's supernatural. Did that work for you? Did the Halloween franchise work when they made Michael more supernatural? Not totally supernatural, but bro, he was doing shit that, look, he was supernatural. I'm just saying, okay? So with Rob Zombie's Halloween, they brought it right back down to the basics. He's a man. Now, the difference that they did with Rob Zombie's Halloween versus Halloween from 1978 is he's not just a man. There's reason behind what he does. There's reason, the way he was brought up, his childhood, his parents, his sister, the things he endured in school and so forth. Now, there are a lot of people that love it. There are people that hate it. I think there were interesting parts about it, but if I had to pick one over the other, I don't want to know all of those things. I don't. I want to have that mystery. I want to be scared of what's behind those eyes because I can't understand it. I can't comprehend it. That's what he was in 1978. That's the way that Nick portrayed him, okay? With Tyler, there's reasoning behind it. There's reasoning behind it. There's anger in the kills. There's a sense of vengeance, and we even see that before he even becomes quote unquote Michael Myers. Even as a child when he takes vengeance on Ronnie. Okay, so and I know some people are saying, well, he killed his sister. That's true, but when he killed Judith in '78, and I'm talking about Halloween, when he killed Judith in '78, we don't know why he did it. There was no grunting. There was no sense of, okay, his sister sucked and he was pissed off at her and he killed her. And when he was unmasked, even his parents, like, Michael, and the look on his face, there's definitely not anger there. There's something that is mysterious. Like Loomis said, staring at the wall, looking past the wall, all those types of things. But in Rob Zombie's films, he was brought back down to the human levels. But it was interesting, right? Because he was brought down to human levels. We understand why he became Michael Myers. But of course, the way that Tyler portrayed it, and I understand they wanted him to be different. Again, we want this Michael Myers to stand out from the others. Bro was like the Incredible Hulk. I mean, like, he was doing stuff that is like, okay, wait a minute, and Tyler Maine's a big guy, right? So there was anger, there was intensity. He's lifting cars like Lou Ferrigno from the Incredible Hulk in Halloween 2. It's crazy stuff. But I think that those stories tried to change what had already come before it, the history of where that character had gone. And yeah, there were some things about it that worked, some things that didn't. Now we come to the Halloween trilogy by David Gordon Green. And one thing I really appreciate about this trilogy, and I know they're big fans of the trilogy, which is why, as a community, we talk about it a lot. But I know there's people that don't like it. They hate it. They think it's the worst thing ever. For you guys out there, I'm not going to try to win you over and say don't hate it anymore. All I can say is this. Watching all of these films, I think that they did some great things in this trilogy. They did two things, and I talked about these two things earlier. The family angle, boom, you take it away. So now Michael is back to being mysterious. Why? Why is he doing what he's doing? Now, in the movies, I know there's some people are going to write in the comment section, yeah, well, no, they said he's heading back to his house and he's looking out the window and that's his reasoning. Yes, they did allude to it because you have to do that in the story. Michael Myers doesn't talk. So we are projecting our ideas on him. Just because Frank and Laurie, the more he kills, the more he transcends, just because they said those things in the film.
You can't defeat it with brute force.
If we only knew then what we know now.
Doesn't necessarily mean that those are 100% the reasons or the why, okay? There are ways you could look at it. You could look at it both ways, in other words. But with this trilogy, they take away the family angle, right? And Michael is a man. Now, granted, I know people are going to say Halloween Kills. I know. They're going to say in Halloween Kills, he was shot 16 times. He was stabbed. He was this, he was that. I know. I get it. He was doing some things that were right on that cusp, right, of being otherworldly. And David Gordon Green himself said he is a man capable of some things that are very, very amazing. Almost impossible. But again, look at 78, guys. Shot 6 times, falls off a balcony, and in a split second, or maybe it was 2 seconds, Loomis goes out to look at him. He's gone. Now, that's pretty fantastical, right? And with this new trilogy, again, this is a more modern audience. This is 40 years later, 45 years later. So for the modern audience, we do have to up the ante. We got to have things to be a little bit more intense. And because of the trajectory of the franchise, the fans expected that as part of the evolution of Michael. So what I'm getting at here, guys, is in the trilogy, Michael was, in my opinion, just my humble opinion, he was probably like one of the greatest or one of the best combinations of what had come before. He had the simplicity of Nick Castle, but he also had that impossible presence, that almost supernatural presence that you saw from Warlock, from the great George P. Wilbur, from Tyler. You know, those presentations of Michael are in what James Jude Courtney did in this trilogy. And in 2018, you could honestly say that was just straight off of Nick, right? The way he was presented. I mean, other than the fact of like when his hand gets blown off and all you hear is just barely a grunt, barely a grunt. And he just, boom, he's just back to business. Now, the other thing you got to remember too, though, here's the thing about Michael, and I've said this in previous videos, check them out in my Halloween playlist. He's been locked up for 40 years. Okay, for 40 years, he's just been dormant. He's been off task. 2018, boom, he escapes. He's on it. He's ready to rock and roll. He's got stuff he's got to do. So the way he's portrayed, the way I look at him in this trilogy, you know, he's 60-something years old, 62, 63 years old, whatever it is. I'm not saying he was on a suicide mission per se, but I think not only was he ready to die, he was just going to do whatever he had to do, right? It was almost like a last gasp, that adrenaline rush to just boom, plow through whoever stood in his way, right? Because it's not necessarily about him just going out to kill for kill's sake, as far as we can tell, but he had what he wanted to do, get back to that house for whatever reason. We don't know fully what it is, but that's what he was going to do. And anyone that stood in his way, boom, he plowed right through them at whatever cost. And in Halloween Ends, we saw the result of all those injuries, the result of all those things, that body, that 60-something-year-old body was at its end stage. And that's what we saw. Now, a lot of people didn't like that. Big missed opportunities, in my opinion, yes, for sure. But if you look at the whole trajectory, the 13 films, right? And I think it worked out really good because with 2018, it follows off of 78 alone. It ignores everything else. But if you look at the whole trajectory from 78 to Ends, it's a pretty cool arc, man. It's a pretty cool arc. And we've seen a lot of variations, a lot of different presentations to cater to different vibes from people. And I think it's really, really interesting when you look at it like that. I think Michael has a very interesting journey and definitely an interesting evolution of that character. But in my opinion, I think the best could be yet to come, because I think that there's a lot to be learned from the Halloween trilogy by David Gordon Green. And when we see him come back, whether it's on the small screen, definitely on the big screen, I think what they will do is take the best of what we've seen, just like I think David Gordon Green tried to do. I think it will be that Michael that has that mystery, that simplicity. Don't try to over explain things. And I do think it's going to be that Michael that brings intensity in his own way, not out of anger, not out of vengeance per se. But I think that that's where this could go. What do you guys want to see when he comes back? Do you think that this evolution of his character is bringing us to a point where Michael could be the best he's ever been when he comes back? What are your thoughts? What were some of the presentations of Michael over this franchise that you think were the best, that you enjoyed the most? What did you hate? What didn't you like the most? Let me know in the comment section down below so we can have a fantastic conversation about this as a community of Michael Myers fans and a community of Halloween fans. And I can't wait to talk about it, guys, because I love this stuff. It's a passion. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps to support the channel. It really does. And if you're a movie fan, if you're a horror fan, if you're a Halloween fan, subscribe to the Nightwatch Zone and join this fantastic community so we can continue to talk about these things and beyond. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Nightwatch.
See anything you like?
Peace.